Drivers on U.S. Highway 64 think the Appalachian Mountains stopped changing hundreds of millions of years ago, but deep under western North Carolina, a massive piece of heavy crust broke off and sank into the Earth's mantle. That missing weight caused the entire region to lift upward like a floating raft. Rivers across the region gained massive energy and are actively slicing those old mountains wide open today. Drive through Macon County and the ground feels completely steady. The Blue Ridge Parkway shows blue lines of ridges stacked all the way to the horizon. The slopes look worn down, rounded, and quiet. Textbooks state that the big tectonic collisions that built these mountains ended roughly 260 million years ago. Time is supposed to wear a place like this perfectly flat. People assume the landscape has just been sitting there, slowly wearing away since the age of the dinosaurs. Then the road enters the Kulasaja Gorge. The illusion immediately breaks. The land stops looking tired. Rock faces stand almost straight up alongside the pavement. The Kulasaja River drops extremely fast through tight, sharp bends. This terrain feels violently carved rather than rolled. The sharp look of this gorge feels completely out of place for a mountain chain this ancient. The reason for that extreme sharpness hides right inside the river currents. Cars pull over constantly at places like Dry Falls and Bridal Veil Falls. People walk directly behind the curtain of water. They treat these massive drops like permanent, fixed landmarks. But those waterfalls are not staying put. They act as moving boundaries. Geologists call these sudden drops in the river profile nick points. They function exactly like moving steps cut into the channel. Water hits the tough Nancy's Creek gneiss at the lip of the falls. The turbulence digs into small cracks and breaks pieces of solid rock loose. Slowly, that rocky edge starts to wear back. The waterfall physically creeps uphill over time. It moves millimeters a year, far too slow for a person to notice day to day. But over centuries, the edge pulls backward, and the gorge behind it grows significantly longer. The river is literally cutting its way uphill. Stream power dictates exactly how fast that rock wears away. A larger drainage area feeds more water into the channel. That heavy water rushing down a steep slope creates massive physical force at the ledge. Downstream of these breaks, the river cuts into bedrock at roughly 27 millimeters every 1,000 years. Upstream, where the river runs flatter, the rate drops to just 6 millimeters. The lower basin deepens much faster than the upper sections can keep up. That fast-moving front of destruction is still advancing right now. Geologists used modern LiDAR elevation scans to map the entire Kulasaja River basin. This technology strips away the forest cover to show the bare, exact shape of the Earth. They located where the channels currently run and mathematically rebuilt what the old surface used to look like. Across multiple streams, the ancient river profiles lined up perfectly. The Kulasaja River used to run across a surface roughly 480 meters higher than its current position. That equals about 1,475 feet. The river carved out a vertical drop roughly the size of 5 football fields, stacked end to end. The maps revealed that this massive erosion did not happen from the top down. Something pulled the bottom out from under the water. The ridges above the river never dropped much at all. When researchers checked the ridge tops, the elevation sat very close to where that ancient surface originally flowed. The high parts stayed high, while the valleys plummeted. This massive split caused the region's relief to skyrocket. The difference between the highest peaks and lowest valleys grew by more than 150%. The landscape stretched wide open vertically. Gravity constantly tries to smooth out sharp edges through hill slope diffusion. Soil creeps downhill and rain loosens the material. But the river outpaces that entire process. It digs faster than the surrounding slopes can possibly respond. Researchers measure this split using hypsometric integrals. This calculation maps exactly how elevation gets distributed across a specific area. Below the waterfalls, the numbers spike. That means drastically more land sits at higher relative elevations compared to the newly gutted valley floor. It creates two completely different landscapes sitting right next to each other. One looks ancient and calm, while the other looks violently cut. People drive right through the boundary without ever noticing the split. The highways follow the rivers because climbing the ridges costs too much time. Drivers spend their days in the lowest, deepest, most altered parts of the map. Take Kulisaja Falls as an example. The river plummets roughly 200 feet over a stacked series of steep ledges. Below that point, the water rips into a narrow gorge boxed in by vertical rock. Above that drop, the river wanders slowly through a wide, flat valley. The top section belongs to a 200-million-year-old timeline. The bottom section belongs to an 8-million-year-old timeline. Bridal Veil Falls tells the exact same story. Water drops completely over a rock face, allowing vehicles to pass directly behind it. That massive overhang only exists because the river undercut the rock layers while adjusting to the new slope. The river is still physically lowering the valley floor today. The rivers did not just randomly decide to dig deeper, they received a massive signal to cut. During the Miocene, roughly 8 to 10 million years ago, a geological event shook the foundation of the Appalachians. Dense material located deep inside the lower crust became unstable. That heavy layer peeled away and sank directly into the mantle. Scientists call the steep structural collapse delamination. Removing that heavy rock left a massive void underground. Hotter, lighter material from the mantle surged upward to fill the empty space. It acted like swapping a heavy iron weight for something that floats. The entire southern Appalachian region lifted. This epirogenic uplift happened broadly and slowly. No fault lines broke the surface. No massive volcanoes erupted. Seismic studies confirm this massive underground heat source. Scientists shoot seismic waves through the earth to map the interior. When those waves travel under the Appalachians, they significantly slow down in specific zones. Slow waves always point to hotter, less dense material. This data proves that hot mantle welled up into the space where the old crust dropped away. That deep, invisible heat is still rising right now. Geologists discovered another layer to this underground engine. When ancient land masses ripped apart, they left permanent edges deep underground. These boundaries separate thick crust from thin crust. Those jagged edges create edge-driven convection. They force slow currents to circulate deep inside the mantle. Recent research from 2025 links these deep boundaries to ongoing heat shifts under the mountains. Hot material continually moves along those ancient breaks. The deep mantle currents are still feeding energy into the system today. The river systems felt that lift instantly. When the ground rose, the rivers suddenly sat much higher relative to sea level. Their base level dropped. Water demands to meet that lowest point. The streams immediately gained massive energy and started chewing downward to catch up. That drop triggered a wave of intense erosion that started downstream and pulsed upstream. The nick points formed where the water adjusted to the new angle. The system was put into motion millions of years ago, and that adjustment continues today. Some outdated theories claim these mountains started growing tall again around 100 million years ago. The rocks prove otherwise. Thermochronology tracks exactly how rocks cool as they approach the surface. Those tests confirm long stretches of absolute quiet. The ground did not push up into new peaks. For the last 100 million years, relentless erosion served as the main force shaping the landscape. Rain, frost, and gravity continuously scraped the peaks away. Rivers carried the broken material downhill. Entire rock layers that once capped these ridges vanished completely. The uplift, 8 million years ago, did not rebuild the mountains. It simply gave the rivers a much steeper angle to cut from. The mountains are not growing. They are being systematically removed. Every single rainstorm takes a tiny piece of the rock away. The strangest truth about the Appalachians is what still holds them up. The crust underneath these ridges extends roughly 31 to 34 miles deep. The mountains sit on a massive buried mass of rock that functions exactly like the hidden half of an iceberg. When ancient continents slammed together 300 million years ago, they shoved the crust downward just as hard as they pushed it upward. That Alleghanian collision built a massive crustal root. Continental crust is physically lighter than the mantle beneath it. The crust weighs about 2.8 grams per cubic centimeter, while the mantle weighs 3.3. That tiny difference in density allows the crust to float higher. For every foot of height showing at the surface, roughly 5 to 6 times that amount sits hidden underground. This concept, called airy isostasy, proves that a mountain relies on a strict balance of weight and buoyancy. As rivers stripped rock off the top, the earth experienced exhumation. The ground literally got cut down, exposing rock that originally formed miles underground. When that heavy top layer vanished, the crust flexed. Removing weight from the surface allowed the deep system to rise and adjust. The entire Appalachian mountain belt operates as a living weight scale. Researchers expected a root this old to melt away entirely, but seismic models still detect severe crustal thickening under the old collision sutures. Gravity data reveals a massive deficit underground, proving lighter rock still fills that deep space. Hundreds of millions of years of erosion stripped away the top layers. But the deep foundation survives. The lower portion delaminated, but the lighter upper root stayed anchored. The buried support structure is still actively maintaining the elevation right now. This mechanism reaches far beyond the Kalasaja River. The exact same pattern dominates western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and northern Georgia. The Tuckasegee and Little Tennessee rivers display identical signs of deep incision. The new river slices incredibly steep paths through ancient terrain. Cosmogenic nuclide testing measures how long rocks have been exposed to the sky. Those tests confirm that river cutting outpaced ridge erosion across the entire southern Appalachian system. That regional cutting leaves a dangerous legacy. The inherited steepness puts massive physical stress on the hillsides. Researchers at Georgia Tech linked these extremely steep slopes to severe modern hazards. Heavy storms soak the steep ground. The water lubricates the soil and rock. Because the river carved the valleys too deep, the slopes cannot hold the weight. Landslides rip whole sides of hollows loose. The ground is still constantly shifting right now. The sharp relief forces the hillsides into dangerous angles. Gravity violently removes whatever the river leaves behind. The steep slopes fail, sending tons of soil sliding into the water. The river clears that fallen debris out, which immediately makes room for more hillsides to collapse. It operates as a continuous, self-feeding loop of destruction. The deeper the cut goes, the steeper the sides become. The surface hides this violent reality perfectly. Narrow roads run directly past old houses tucked into the folds of the land. Church parking lots sit safely on the small, flat patches. Gas stations operate calmly at the mouth of steep hollows. The ground feels completely trustworthy. Nothing about a shaded creek crossing tells a driver how much bedrock that water gutted out. Drive US 64 between Franklin and Highlands again. The pavement feels rock solid. The cliffs look unchanging. But the Kulisaja River still rushes against the stone. That quiet mountain road sits directly on top of a landscape that simply hasn't finished breaking itself apart.